Hi, I'm DC Contour, author of A Change of Tide and An Obscured Glass, both parts of the Legend of the Salt of the Earth series, because I don't know how to name things with short names. And today we are going to be reading some deleted scenes from book 2. So obviously these are my phone because they're deleted, so they never actually made it into the book. And also, if you're new here, welcome. This is where we do things where I have terrible lighting, the video quality looks like it's from the 90s, and we just roll with it because we're working with what we got and life is on a budget and not all of us can afford real fancy stuff. So here we are. An Obscured Glass. So quick, in case you're like, wait, what? A Change of Tide is book 1. So Nellie has spent her whole life working to become a professional surfer. She's super, super close. She turns 18 years old right before this one giant, massive surf competition, and then discovers she turns into a mermaid every single time she gets into the ocean. She's devastated. She's angry. She doesn't want anything to do with magic, which would be fine, except for in her history class, she just got put into a group project with Nikki, who just found out she's a witch. She's really excited about it, but has no idea how her powers work. And Emma, who's a psychic medium, so she sees visions, she talks to the dead, and she has had a vision of the future that there's some big something coming to their little town of Otter Sands, California. If they can't all work together and combine their magics, they might not live to see graduation. Dun, dun, dun! Okay, book 2. Premise, so you have a little bit of context. Spoiler alert, they didn't die in book 1. I always think that would be funny if, like, I set up this whole thing, I'm like, oh my gosh, they might die, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, do they die? And I'm like, well, there is a book 2, so like obviously they don't die, but then what if they actually did die and you get book 2 and it's literally just like page 1 says they died, why are you here? And then it's literally like 300 blank pages. That would be hilarious. Don't worry, it's not 300 blank pages. There's actual words back there. But book 2 is essentially the girls have graduated from high school, and Emma got to go on this super fun trip to Europe with her grandmother and her aunt, and Nellie got to go on this super fun graduation trip to South Africa and get to do all of this really cool surfing for her sister and her dad. Lots of being a mermaid for her. Had a blast. Nikki's budget looks more like mine. She got to go to Home Depot and buy some paint to paint her room. So everybody's finally coming home for their graduation trips, and Nikki is so stoked. She's so stoked to see everybody. She calls Emma. Phone's not working. It keeps saying that this number doesn't exist. And she's like, well, that's really weird. Maybe Rochelle turned it off while they were, because they were gone for like a month. Maybe she just turned the number off while they were gone. And then she calls up Nellie. Nellie's number works just fine. She asks Nellie, hey, super stoked. So glad you're home. When do you want to meet up today? Also, have you heard from Emma? She was supposed to get home yesterday. I haven't heard from her. Have you heard from her? And Nellie's response is, Emma who? Dun, dun, dun. No one remembers Emma. Nikki is the only one who remembers Emma, and they have to figure out, where did Emma go? Who took her, and why magic her out of everybody's brains? Da-da-da. Okay. Anyway, so it's from book 2 that we have our 2 deleted scenes. When people talk about having to kill their darlings, as a writer, we're not talking about like killing characters sometimes, but usually it's not characters. Usually it's scenes that you really, really like. They just don't really work, whether it's a description, whether it's whatever. So we have this scene, which is Nellie walking into Joe's room, and as I was rereading and whatnot, I was like, we don't even need this, so we're just going to clear this out. Okay, so here's this scene. Both of the scenes you're actually getting 2. You're actually getting 2 deleted scenes. So, you lucky dog. They're both with Nellie and Joe. I just thought that'd be kind of fun. Okay, opening the multicolored door, Nellie poked her head in through Joe's room. Joe had redecorated after their Africa trip. Her walls were still 4 different colors, each brighter than the last. The amethyst purple and lemon yellow walls were essentially left untouched, still covered in their various assortments of posters, pictures, and doorknobs. The azure blue wall had been cleared, cleaned, and refilled. Jo had pinned up twinkle lights so that they zigzagged across the whole wall. She had found some tiny clothespins and used them to clip up as many photos from Africa as the twinkly lights could hold. She had relocated the old calendars and surf fin to her flamingo pink wall, cramming him in the last remaining spaces. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to tell you this right now. If you have not, I forgot that this was here. If you have not yet read An Obscured Glass, I highly recommend you pause the video here, because this next one does contain a spoiler. Okay? Pause here, go read the book, then come back and you'll see what I'm talking about. You've been warned. I'm moving ahead now. So, in book 2, I did warn you, spoilers coming. Nellie finally figures out that Wyatt's been in love with her since they met. And in the original version of the book, there was a lot of Grace, who's Jo's best friend. She starts dating Wyatt. I use the word dating very loosely because they text for 3 weeks and then hold hands. And Grace refuses to be with Wyatt without Jo present. She's very nervous about the whole thing. Anyway, so eventually Wyatt and Nellie figure out that they like each other. Wyatt's known the whole time, and Nellie finally figures it out, and they do eventually get together. Well, for a while, there was a lot of talk in the book of Grace calling Nellie like a skank, basically. Calling her a woman of the night. The woman with the red lipstick, right? And upon rereading, I was like, you know what? We don't actually I needed to cut words because she's already, even cut down, she's still chunkier. And I needed to cut words. So I was like, you know what? We don't need this whole thread throughout the book. So it ended up getting cut. But this scene cracked me up. So I was like, we're gonna pull this scene for deleted scenes later because I had a feeling I'd want it. And it's just, I think I also changed ages. I think originally I had Jo, oh no, just kidding. I did originally have Jo and Grace quite a bit younger. And then I was like, if I want Grace to try and date Wyatt, I need her to be not quite so young. Okay, so here is our setup. They're going to Wyatt's birthday party. So this is near the very, very, very end of the book. I have good news for you, Jo said. I have good news, Jo said. Well, good for you. What is it? Nellie asked, locking the front door. Grace is sick, Jo said. She won't be at Wyatt's party, and I'm under strict orders to spy on your skanky behind. Nellie groaned. Is she ever going to get over this? She's almost 17, so no, not anytime soon, Jo said, conveniently forgetting that she too had been 16 less than a month ago. Don't remind me, Nellie said, getting into her truck. Jo shot a look at her sister that said, don't go there. Jo got in the truck and shut her door. All I meant, Jo said aloud, was that it's been 2 weeks since she and Wyatt broke up, plus it's summer, so she doesn't have any of the cute guys. She doesn't see any of the cute guys from school. All she sees is me, and I remind her of you, which reminds her of Wyatt, who makes her crazy. So, thanks for that. It's got to have been longer than that, Nellie said, though she wasn't really sure. She pulled out into the road. Besides, like I said from the very beginning, she's too young for him. Technically, it's only 2-ish years, because Grace turned 17 at the end of the month, Jo said. Don't get me wrong. It's nasty right now since he's all old and Grace is a baby. But how come no one complains about Nikki and Henry? They're 4 years apart, and everybody seems pretty cool about that. I complain, Nellie said. 4 years is too much. You say that now, Jo said. Just wait. Wait, Nellie asked, making a right turn. Wait for what? Well, Mom and Dad were 4 years apart, Jo said. Nellie sighed. That's different. Mom and Dad were already in their 20s when they met. Henry is in his 20s, Joe said. Can we stop talking about this? Nellie asked. She felt uncomfortable thinking about Henry and Nikki. She shuddered. Fine, Joe said reluctantly. What should I tell Grace? I don't care, Nellie said. Tell her whatever you want. What I want to tell her is to get over him because he's too old and to get off your back because you're my sister and I don't want to hear about you anymore, Joe said. Good, then tell her that. I can't. Why? Joe asked, knowing she'd hate herself for asking. Because, Joe whined. I'm her best friend. I'm supposed to be on her side, even when I think her side is nasty and wrong. Then tell her I was a skank who did skanky things, Nellie said, the words feeling foreign in her mouth. I'm not telling her that, Joe said. That'll just give her crazy engine more fuel. There was finally a bit of quiet for a little bit while Joe thought. I got it, Joe said suddenly. Of course you do, Nellie said, pulling into a parking lot. Aren't you going to ask me what I have? What do you have? I'm going to tell her that if she really loves Wyatt as much as she thinks she does, then she should want him to be happy, Joe said. Then I'll tell her that being with you makes Wyatt happy. Sounds great, Nellie said. Nellie parked the car. Sounds brilliant, Joe said. If this works, everyone will be happy. Grace can move on. I don't have to hear about you anymore, and you and Wyatt can finally live happily ever after in peace. Anyway, I just love Joe's antics. So, not the world's longest deleted scenes, but most deleted scenes aren't. There are these itty-bitty snippets. Occasionally you get these super long deleted scenes. I'm going to try and be better about saving big deleted scenes in the future. Sometimes there just aren't any. Sometimes I do a pretty good job of, like, as I'm writing it, I'm like, oh, that's not going to work, and I just pull it and then rewrite. Occasionally I have those kind of things that are in the book for quite a while before they finally get wormed out. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed some deleted scenes from an obscured glass, and I hope that you listened when I told you there were spoilers and that you didn't spoil anything for yourself. Although, if you're like me, I don't mind spoilers because then I can just read in peace, already knowing what happens, but getting to find out the fun details, because sometimes I stress out too much about, oh my gosh, what's going to happen, and the stress and anxiety of not knowing what's going to happen tends to make the reading less fun. So I don't know. But anyway, have a good one. I'll see you next week.